Our world is always screaming for more, right? More hustle, more effort, more control. But what if there's another way? An ancient voice that whispers a totally different path, one not of force, but of flow. So today, we're going to step back, way back, like 2,500 years, to explore the profound and honestly surprisingly modern wisdom of Lao Tzu.
Just think about that for a second. That question completely flips our whole understanding of power on its head. And it's the very heart of the philosophy we're diving into. So forget trying to push against the current. We're about to learn how to use it to our advantage.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll meet the mysterious old master himself, Lao Tzu. Then, we'll try to wrap our heads around the core idea, the Tao. After that, we'll get into the art of effortless action, find power and balance, and finally, bring it all back to how you can actually use this stuff in your own world.
Okay, first up, who was the brain behind all these revolutionary ideas? Let's meet the man, or, maybe the myth.
So here's the thing about Lao Tzu. We can't really pin him down with, historical facts. His name literally just means old master. The legend goes he was this keeper of archives who just got totally fed up with society. So what did he do? He hopped on a water buffalo and rode off into the desert. But before he disappeared for good, a gatekeeper basically begged him, hey, write down your wisdom before you go. And what he wrote? That became the legendary Tao Te Ching.
And right at the heart of all that wisdom is this one concept. It's incredibly simple on one hand and just unbelievably deep on the other. It's called the Tao.
And get this, the book opens with this brilliant but kind of frustrating line. Lao Tzu is basically telling us right from the get-go, hey, you can't just define this and memorize it for a test. The Tao isn't a rule book. It's a reality, something you have to feel and experience for yourself.
Okay, so probably the best way to wrap your head around the Tao is to think of it like a giant river. It's this invisible current that guides, everything. You can't see the current itself, right? But you can totally see its effects. You see it in the way trees bend, the way water flows around a rock, the way life just adapts. That's the Tao. It's that fundamental, natural flow of existence.
All right, so if the Tao is the river, how are we supposed to navigate it? That question brings us to one of the most practical and honestly powerful ideas in all of Taoism, something called Wu Wei.
Just look at this comparison for a second. On the left, does that look familiar? That's what so many of us feel every single day. Pushing, forcing, fighting against resistance, and what's the result? Total burnout. But now, look at the right. That's the Taoist alternative. It's about moving with the flow, having this sense of ease, and actually being way more effective, all with less struggle.
Now, it's super important to get this right. Wu Wei does not mean doing nothing. It's not about being lazy. It means acting without all that unnecessary strain, without all the ego. It's about intelligent, responsive action. Think about a sailor. A sailor doesn't create the wind, right? But by understanding the wind and knowing exactly how to adjust the sails, they can travel for miles with very little effort. That is Wu Wei.
Okay, so this whole idea of effortless flow, it's built on another huge principle, the harmony of opposites. And I bet you've seen this before. We're talking about the famous dance of yin and yang.
A lot of us see these as, opposing forces in conflict. But in Taoist thinking, that's not it at all. They're partners. They're two sides of the same coin, locked in a dance. Think about it. You can't have light without darkness. You can't have action without rest. One literally defines the other, and even gives rise to it.
So life isn't about picking a side and sticking with it. If you focus only on the yang stuff, all action, all light, all go, 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 you know what happens? You burn out. We've all been there. Real health, real wholeness, that comes from embracing both. It's about finding that sweet spot, that dynamic balance between doing and just being, between speaking and just listening.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But how in the world do we take these ancient, kind of mystical ideas and actually put them to work in our crazy modern lives?
I don't want you to think of this as a strict to-do list. It's more like a few gentle invitations, things to try. Start by just noticing the natural ebbs and flows in your own energy. When a plan totally falls apart, can you try being flexible instead of just trying to force it? Can you start to trust that quiet little voice, your intuition? It's really all about embracing that cycle of intense work and deep, meaningful rest, knowing that you absolutely need both.
So if you take away just one thing from all this, let it be this. The wisdom of Lao Tzu is telling us that real power, real effectiveness, doesn't come from just pushing harder and using brute force. It comes from intelligence, from flexibility, and from getting in sync with the natural flow of things. It's a huge shift in perspective, moving away from I have to make this happen to I'm going to let this happen.
And that brings us to a final thought I want to leave you with. In this world that is constantly shouting at us to do more, be more, go faster, what could you gain by listening to the quiet? What kind of profound strength might be waiting for you in those moments of pause, of observation, of effortless action? What could you gain simply by listening?